Hi everyone, we've got a debate happening today. It's cash versus growth. So cash flow in property as a strategy versus capital growth being the number one driver for that strategy. So I've got Marcus here today with me. He's come in with all guns blazing saying cash is going to be it. I'm thinking more capital growth for the long term, but he's got a scenario that he wants to run by me and we're going to play it out. So Marcus, welcome.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
Let's have a look. Throw it at me. What have you got?
All right. So I was always under the opinion that cash was king, as you said. So I was under the opinion if you had a $500,000 investment, you're getting $500 a week rent, a 5% rental yield, that was the ideal investment.
Yeah.
However, after doing the numbers, I then thought about another way of doing it with $800,000 as the investment, maybe only $400 rental yield, so only 2.5% yield.
Yeah.
And holding both properties for about 10 years. So at the end of those 10 years, I want to work out which one's the better investment.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So what he's basically saying is the top one has a fantastic yield attached to it, whereby you're running a property that's costing you nothing to hold or shouldn't cost you anything to hold. Now, there are a number of indicators that we need to take into account. Your total income for the year, the age of the house for depreciation purposes and things like that. So we're just merely talking gross yield today, which is before tax. So basically the rent times 52 divided by the purchase price gives you a percentage. Right, so 500k, 5% yield versus going in at an 800k property, which might be around a 2.5 or 3% yield, which means our running costs on this are much, much higher. However, what Marcus is saying with this property is it's probably in a better location. It's probably a better dwelling, a more superior dwelling in a superior location versus this one. So there's a good chance that it may perform a lot better over time for capital growth purposes. However, the holding costs on this are going to be far higher. Now, it's been a really interesting topic because in the last 2 years or even 3 years, our interest rates have been really low, haven't they? And they've started to come down even lower. Yep. So they're at an all-time low, which means the holding costs on this property for interest purpose is much lower than it was 3 years ago. So we can entertain more of this stuff, but it definitely depends on your income in your life and the cash flow needs of your life when determining the answer. So what's going to be the better option over 10 years? Now, as I said at the start, I've always gone with the capital growth, okay, but keeping a yield in the equation so we don't get caught in a knot if interest rates rise or I lose my job or anything like that, okay? So this is definitely the safe bet, isn't it?
Correct.
Right. This is a safe bet that ensures that you're in an okay location, you've got a reasonable dwelling, it's looking after itself pretty much before tax at the moment and definitely positive cash flow after tax. Will it get a better performance than this in the next 10 years? We'd probably say no, generally speaking, right? Unless we've come in at some sort of discount, okay? This one here, fantastic. If we said property doubles every 10 years, which it probably doesn't, but let's say it does, we're saying, well, this is going to be worth 1.6. Even if this doubles in 10 years, it's still $1 million. You've got a 600k difference versus a 300k difference of buying in. So that's where my thinking was. Now, have you got anything to say around that?
Not really, but I was always concerned that the cash flow was always going to be the problem. And as you just mentioned, obviously depends on people's incomes and how they can actually work with that loan. So I guess I was thinking I could afford that 800,000 property and could afford that cash flow. Would that be the better option? Because I was still a bit torn between the two. But after speaking to you, and if I could afford those repayments, then maybe the 800,000 investment may be the better investment opportunity, especially over the 10-year period. Also, I was thinking though with the tax benefits though. So say you buy a $500,000 brand new home, and you have depreciation then mixed into the into the equation, how does that look compared to maybe a 500,000 existing one compared to a 500,000 new one, which you can sometimes get around the place?
Sure. So just quickly on that, and we've done some numbers on that recently, where old versus new from a cash flow point of view, there's probably been about a 3 to 4K difference between old and new because of the pure depreciation of something new. So that's exciting in the fact that it's, I call it free money depreciation. It's the building going down in value, but hopefully the land's going up. So that may play a big part for someone that's a lower income earner that maybe needs more of a cash injection, or a higher income earner that needs tax benefits because it's new, right? So let's come back to this. You're saying now that the 800K you're leaning more towards because of the capital growth?
Long term, I would have more money in my pocket.
Yes.
Or in equity anyway.
In assets.
At the end of that 10-year period.
Correct.
If I can afford the repayments of servicing that loan though.
Yes.
See where it comes down
absolutely. And that is the big one, ladies and gentlemen, is Marcus is saying, right, I want to go in and buy that 800K property. I've done my numbers. I can actually now hold that property. I'm comfortable with that. Even though it's got a lower rent, I can tip into that knowing that I might get a better return long term because of that superior location or superior dwelling, right? If you haven't got the income, that's where people get blown up as investors, is they go and search for this capital growth, the higher price property, the lower yield, they maybe haven't done their numbers, and all of a sudden, as we mentioned before, interest rates rise, we might have a loss of job, or the vacancy rates might increase, and all of a sudden they're out to water without a paddle, and they have to sell it, which defeats the whole purpose of the strategy. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's always one size doesn't fit all.
That's right. So in summary, you're saying it depends on the individual strategy.
Yeah, so I could have said that at the start of the video, but that would have been a bit boring. Right?
Yeah, fair enough.
So we wanted to thrash that out, but you've gone from this to that, is basically what you're saying. Income's probably stayed the same, but the mindset has maybe changed a little, coupled with the fact that the interest rates are now lower, which gives you a bit of opportunity for both.
Correct.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
All right, good chat.
Thank you, John.
All right, Abe. Talk soon.